Beverly and Kaminieriak Barren Ground caribou are two major herds in northern Canada. They were named after the lakes where they gave birth to their calves. Inuit, Dene, Cree, and Métis people from about 20 communities in the Kivalliq region of Nunavut, northern Manitoba and Saskatchewan, and the southeastern Northwest Territories have traditionally depended on the Beverly and Kaminieriak caribou for food, clothing, and materials for making handicrafts. Caribou are still the primary food source for many of these communities, and their northern indigenous cultures remain closely intertwined with the caribou. The caribou herds are faced with increased challenges and threats due to natural causes and human activities. More information is needed about the herds and pressures affecting them to determine what can be done to safeguard caribou and their habitat.
There used to be a lot of caribou. I remembered when I was living in Fort Reliance and in the house, which was on a point, the caribou would fill up the whole bay, and there would be just tons and tons of caribou going through, traveling. Today, it's not like that. You sit on the porch and you'd be lucky if you see a small herd of caribou go by.
Thankfully, there are things we can do to help conserve caribou for the future. Caribou provide food and income, but there is also a strong cultural and spiritual connection between Indigenous peoples and these animals. That relationship is an important part of the traditional harvester's identity that has been passed down through many generations.
How useful was caribou then? It was very useful. We used it for food, clothing, sinew. We made rope. It was all useful. All the meat was edible. We ate the feet, meat, the bones, and so on.
Caribou is important to us because it's our life. So the caribou and the land is just like our table. The caribou and wildlife is just our food.
It's our primary food. That's how our forefathers survived. That's why I'm here. They survived from caribou and fish. We take and use all the meat and all the hide, and we used either that for mat or for clothing.
That's pretty much one of the very few things that is available in my region, in my area. We're so far inland, we don't get to see so much seals, beluga whales, and stuff like that.
Responsible hunters use all parts of the caribou and treat the animals with respect. This practice ensures that no part of the caribou is wasted.
Sometimes I'll follow caribou for 20 minutes trying to get a good shot. I'll stop 5 or 6 times and aim, trying to get that caribou right in the right location where there's nothing behind him, where he's not moving. You want to try to shoot him in the head or in the neck. You can also shoot him right in the lower ribs, right up, make a nice clean shot. The bullet will go right through.
I know the story there too, and I know from olden days, don't chase caribou for nothing. Or skidoo, even nowadays I still talk to boys, don't chase caribou for nothing. Don't go after them. If you want to get to them, go to side, don't go after them. Side, that's the only way they'll slow down. They know because they're not going after them. I tell them boys like that, so they start doing it, a lot of hunters. Even from outside hunters come to our town, I've told them that. Don't ever chase caribou from behind.
To maintain their cultures, Indigenous youth need to develop cultural and spiritual connections to the land and learn traditional customs and values. These lessons are increasingly difficult to pass on from generation to generation. While traditional hunters use everything they take, wastage of caribou does occur. Wastage needs to be minimized so it does not threaten the supply of caribou available to current and future generations.
Wastage is a huge problem. Wastage has always been around. As long as there's been caribou, there's always been wastage. It's like an elephant in a room. Nobody wants to talk about it, but it's got to be talked about it.
And some of the problems that I've seen that we're having is some of the younger hunters and some of the less experienced caribou hunters from the south, they wouldn't know that they actually hit that caribou, because when you hit a moose, it'll show signs because you're hitting it with such a big powered rifle. These caribou are shot with a lower caliber rifle, so a lot of times that they are going into the bush line and never retrieved. So it's the wounding loss that I really seen as a wastage. And I think if anything, both the department and the Camaneric Board really have to, ramp up on that and teach some of these less experienced hunters of, if you're shooting at that caribou, there's about a 90% chance you're hitting that caribou, so you better be going into that bush line and tracking it.
A severe decline in caribou herd size can result in considerable hardship for traditional harvesters and their families, and, in the past, has caused serious famine. Even in modern times, hardship has resulted when caribou do not return to areas near communities that traditionally hunt them. Recently, there has been decreasing availability of caribou in some parts of the Northwest Territories, Saskatchewan, and Nunavut. Hunters have had to travel farther to harvest caribou, and individuals and families have had to buy caribou or reindeer from other places and have them shipped to their communities. Buying and selling caribou meat through social media tools like Facebook may be increasing the harvest of caribou.
Guy will post on there, I want 4 caribou right now. So a guy will go out, shoot 4 caribou, and bring it back and sell it to them. And some of these animals are going from $250 to $500 per animal. So they're putting the price tag on these caribou's head at a very, very bad time for them. It's not everybody that's doing it. It's just a handful of individuals that are up there. And you can't really blame these people because there's no jobs up there. It's hard to raise a family and stuff. And so these people see it as a way to bring some money, some income into their homes to do it. But it's just a scale that is being done. Like a handful of people are really doing lots of it, while other people are doing just enough to feed their families and have some subsistence. So it's a pretty good sized problem. And to make the problem even worse, we have some air companies are flying the country food for free. So there's no charge to the hunter. He can take his meat and put it on a plane, or at a real reduced cost, like $1 a pound or something. So this really makes the problem a lot worse than what it is, because the people can bring this in and ship it to different regions in Nunavut.
Usually we just go by how our grandparents and the people that used to live out on the land is what they would tell us, is just to take what you need, and that's what we've been using. Everything is being put to use, everything's being brought back. The community, the hunters are being told to bring everything back, because like elders, they like to have certain parts of the caribou, and usually everything is brought back.
Nice clean load of meat. Looks good. This is what your sleigh load of meat should look like. Should be nice and clean. No snow on it. Should be all there. You just try to pile your meat up, stack it up, and if you got a real heavy load, try to put a lot of your hindquarters in the back, because that's where all the weight is. You got too much weight in the front, it's going to pound and you get a lot of blood in your meat. If you got lots of tarp, when you got a big load of meat, you always leave one fold of tarp over. So then when you put your own personal gear in there, you have something to cover your gear on top and it doesn't get full of blood. Sometimes people want hides, so you clean them up and bring them back to them and use them to sleep on, and they're pretty handy. If it gets real cold, sometimes we'll freeze them out flat and we'll stand them up right alongside the tent for a windbreak.
The Beverly and Kamanariak caribou herds are facing increasing challenges and threats. By working together, we can help the herds to continue and be healthy and available to people who depend on them for food and cultural survival.
We want to preserve it. We want to keep it there. Later on, when I'm older, it might not be there. I want it to be there. What will it do if you drill a hole in the ground? If the caribou die, we die too. We live off of it. We don't want that. We don't want that. We want the caribou, we want the land. We want to preserve it. All I want to say is that I want the land to be here.